My name is NeFesha Yisra'el. I use she, her pronouns. I'm the Director of Programs for California for the Arts. And I currently reside on the ancestral land, on the unceded ancestral land of the Yokuts here in the Central Valley, right outside of Fresno. Thank you so much for joining us for this webinar presentation. We are incredibly excited to share this new program, our Grassroots Artists Advocacy Program. But before we get into that, we have some housekeeping to take care of. And before I do that, I want to make sure that my colleagues here, Ted and Teri, can introduce themselves so you all are familiar with the team. So maybe Ted, you want to go first?
Yeah, I'll jump in. Thank you all for coming into the room. My name's Ted Russell. I serve as the program consultant lead for California for the Arts. Yes, I am representing the gear that you can get, and my pronouns are he, him, and I live in the unceded land of the Chicano language, Ohlone people. Teri.
Hello, I am Teri Ball. I am a programs manager here at Californians for the Arts, and I will be manning the chat today, sharing links and things. Welcome. I am coming from the lands of the unceded lands of the Chumash in Santa Barbara, California. Back to you, NeFesha.
Thank you, Teri and Ted. As you see, our team is all over the state. We can go to that next slide there. We're gonna do, as I said, our housekeeping. I see some people already introducing themselves in the chat. Please feel free to introduce yourself. You can share your work affiliation if you're connected with an organization, or if you have your own organization, please feel free to share that in the chat. That way we can network and people can get connected with one another as well. And this event is being recorded. All of the slides, recordings, and all resources will be shared with all registrants. So you don't have to jot down notes super fast. Everything will be sent to you in an email. We can go to that next slide there. All right, cool. We are going to make sure that we honor perspectives in this session today in our chat or in our Q&A segment. Please be respectful of your fellow advocates, and we all here are advocates. Please avoid buzzwords. As you see, I'm going backwards on our bullet points, but please avoid buzzwords and explain references and acronyms. So if you have a long acronym, because we're all learning about one another, please explain it or spell it out for us. And then questions are welcome at all time. One thing that we like to do with our webinars is make sure that the questions, you may have questions that you put in the chat, but make sure they reach that Q&A box. Reason being, we're going to take the Q&A box and we're going to put that in our fact sheet on the website. We're going to try to answer all questions today, as many as we can. And we encourage broader program questions as opposed to individual questions. If you have individual questions that you would like for us to answer, you can contact Ted, who's happy to answer via email, or you can sign up to meet with him during office hours, which you'll be given that information. And if you have technical questions, you're going to want to ask Teri, and we will also share a link to set up office hours as well. All right, let's dive into some of our technical resources or information on the next slide. Now, this is just so that we have an understanding of if you need to have your closed captioning, you should see at the bottom of your screen, it'll say show captions, and you just want to click there and you'll be able to see your closed captioning there. And you can go to the next slide there. And the next one is about adjusting speaker and presentation views. If you, when a slide is being screen shared, you can select some viewing options that will only affect your view. In the top right corner, as you see there, you're going to click view and select one of the options that start with side by side. And you can see there, select on the screen, there's 3 options there. You can play around with this one. And you can play around with this one you most prefer to use, whichever view works for you. Then hover your cursor over the area between the shared screen and video thumbnail, and you should see a vertical gray line separating both views. So you'll be able to see images of us on the screen along with the actual slide deck. You can go ahead to the next slide there. The next one is about saving the chat. You can save the chat transcript which will include all messages from everyone in the webinar and any private direct messages between you and any other participants. Your transcript will be recorded. We'll record chats between when you join the webinar and when you save the chat. So each time you click it, the previous copy is overwritten by an updated one. So that is why it's best to save the chat right before you leave the webinar. We'll also try to save the chat and send it to you all in our follow-up email. And you can go to the next screen, next slide, which is going to be about CA for the Arts. I imagine that most of you that are on here are familiar with our organization. So CA for the Arts, we are in the orange there at the bottom. We are a statewide programming services and advocacy network. We do a lot of connecting and convening. And also, this is an exciting time where we're able to broaden a little bit of our work and offer a fellowship program to develop advocates. And then we have our 501c4. So 501c3 is our CA for the Arts, but 501c4 is CA Arts Advocates, which is your comprehensive lobbying organization. So you can learn more about both of those by going to the links that are there. All right. And then I think we have one more slide there. I'm going to talk a little bit about our programs very, very briefly. This is actually just a screenshot from the website. When you go to caforthearts.org, you'll see a program section, and our programs involve our Arts, Culture, and Creativity Month. Some of you all have visited or been able to attend the summit, which happens in April every year, our Arts and Culture Summit. We also have our California Nonprofit Performing Arts Paymaster program, and then we have our Grassroots Artists Advocacy Program, which is what we're going to be talking about today. And it's also under the umbrella of our Rainin program, our Regional Advocacy Infrastructure Network. And then we do our regional conversations, which hopefully some of you all have been able to attend in the past. Now I'm going to turn it over to Ted, and he is going to dive much more deeper into our GAAP program.
Thank you so much, NeFesha. Let's go to the next slide. Yeah, so we have nicknamed the Grassroots Artists Advocacy Program as GAAP. The folks who've been working on it at California for the Arts call ourselves the GAAP Band, and we'll generally be referring to it as GAAP because we did have the talking point at the beginning not to focus on acronyms, but that's one that we will be using frequently today. And the main thing we want to share with you off the top is the GAAP is designed to empower grassroots advocacy by providing paid training. And this is specifically to support artists and culture bearers in San Francisco and Oakland to make policy changes. We'll talk more about that. But the thing I want to highlight, especially since I used to work there, is GAAP is a new program funded for 2 years by the Kenneth Rainin Foundation based in Oakland. And I just want to acknowledge that with those 2 years of funding, we'll have a second cohort that will launch next summer. So if for some reason the timing of this year's program, which will extend from November to next July, isn't right for you, we will have another cohort. Okay, next slide, please. Yeah, we just want to take a minute because we're very jargon sensitive here, and not everyone is as familiar with the concepts. But just to briefly hit on it, because we know a lot of you are deeply engaged already. But, you know, what is advocacy? Advocacy, just as one definition, is speaking in favor of and working towards enacting specific government or industry policies. And GAAP is designed to help San Francisco and Oakland artists thrive by enabling advocacy for artist-centered change. And I'll just quickly note that if you're into advocacy and you're actually not as interested in going deep and learning more in a 9-month curriculum, or if you're not as interested in advocacy that's specifically to benefit artists and culture bearers, then GAAP actually may not be the right program for you. And as NeFesha mentioned, California for the Arts has many programs to support your interest in advocacy. So just wanted to get that out there right away. Next slide, please. And everything we have, as NeFesha mentioned, will be in the deck, which will be shared with you. So I'm going to go over this very quickly. You don't have to try to read everything on there. I'll give you an overview about GAAP. It essentially has high-level long-term goals as well as short-term goals, and the program has been designed to help us deliver on that. So the long-term goals essentially are that artists thrive, that more artists engage in advocacy, and the policymakers collaborate with artists. Our short-term goals are that artists influence policy, they build relationships with officials, and that GAAP actually replicates statewide. So we hope to extend past San Francisco and Oakland in due time, but right now we're focused on San Francisco and Oakland. Okay, next slide. Great. So there are a few eligibility factors, but we wanted to make the one really obvious is you see in the chat and from my statements. But just to say it quickly, GAAP is open to artists and culture bearers over 18 years of age in Oakland or San Francisco. And by artist, we mean artists with an artistic or creative practice. For culture bearers, we're describing those as those with experience in cultural transmission, cultural preservation. And we also have specifically called out that this is open to creative workers with an artistic or creative practice or experience in cultural transmission or preservation in order to make sure that the dedicated practicing artists and culture bearers who work in creative industries know that they're eligible, even if that may not be their full-time primary profession. But if it's a deep, dedicated, consistent commitment, that's what's important. And we go into great detail in the criteria section of the GAAP webpage, and we'll keep sharing that link with you throughout the course of this, but we actually have a lot of detail about the definitions of the criteria. Since we want to focus on a few other things as well today, I'm not going to just read the list of all the definitions, but it's available for you on the website. I just want to be super clear, since we're at the top of the session, that for GAAP specifically, it's important that the change that you hope to achieve in your advocacy plans that you develop as part of the cohort are really about helping artists and culture bearers thrive. There's so many things we need to do in advocacy in general in the world and in advocacy for the arts. This program specifically is focused on outcomes that impact artists and culture bearers per se. All right, so let's move forward to the next slide, please, so I can talk about the timeline. Great, thank you, thank you. So once again, this is on the website, but just to hit the few key things. So the application deadline for the program is on Monday, October 14th at 5 p.m. That's 5 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time. And we recognize that there are 2 holidays that fall on that day, but we didn't want to close the application on Friday the 11th because we know some people would prefer to work on it over the weekend. You can turn it in any time. You could actually finish this webinar, go into the application, work on it, and hit submit. So you don't have to work on the 14th, and we just wanted to acknowledge that's a holiday and that our cutoff time is 5 p.m. We will offer 5 people the GAAP Fellowship on October 30th, and we'll announce publicly on November 15th. Of course, there's the minor chance those dates might change. We notify anyone who's involved in the process, but those are our anticipated dates, October 30th and November 15th, that I wanted to highlight. And then we'll have the folks who are invited actually confirm their participation by completing the GAAP agreement. We'll talk more about the commitments that we have and that the cohort members will have. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so just want to talk briefly about the structure of the program. It is a stipend that's $12,000, an acknowledgement of the time required. And just to be really clear about the payment timing, there'll be 3 payments for the fellowship at the end of month 3, at the end of month 6, and following the completion of the 6-month program. Okay, next slide, please. Great, great. I just mentioned we wanted to talk about the accountabilities and requirements. There's a great deal being offered through GAAP, and there are commitments for the participants, such as attending the meetings, developing an advocacy plan, and participating in the cohort surveys that we'll do to continue kind of developmental evaluation style to improve what we do with the sessions, and also to evaluate the learning and overall program. So there'll be some surveying and conversations that's designed to help us support you. I want to make really clear that there's no more than 2 excused absences from the in-person and Zoom sessions. And the fellows will average 25 hours per month, including the 5 hours of meetings, but all the individual work. Okay, now I'll turn it over to Teri Ball. Teri.
Okay. See, doing double duty on the chat and talking. I'm trying to pace quickly to the chat. There we go. Okay, you can move on, LT. All right, so we're going to go over quickly the application. I know there's a lot more meaty stuff to go to talk about here, so I'm going to try to move as quickly as possible. I have just put into the chat a couple of resources for you that you will also receive again after the webinar, but there is a link there to the sample application, so you can see all the questions if you want to see them before you get started. I've also put together just an application document with screenshots and a lot of the information that is here to kind of walk you through the process. So first talking about the questions a little bit before we move into the physical application itself. This is an open application, so you don't have to be nominated or invited. Anyone that lives or works in Oakland or San Francisco is welcome to apply. This is not a complicated or difficult application. The entire process should not take you more than an hour or two to complete. As I mentioned, you can see all of the questions beforehand. They're all very straightforward. Really what it is we just need to get to know a little bit about you. So it begins with some questions about you and your relationship to Oakland and San Francisco. The host has asked you to start your video. Oh, sorry. I didn't realize it was stopped. Sorry about that. Okay. Sorry, I lost my notes. All right, so we move from some questions about you and your relationship to Oakland and San Francisco to then some questions about your creative practice, your artistic and creative practice, and your advocacy experience. And then we're going to ask about the problem or issue that you want to tackle through the fellowship. That really then ends the required section. And there are a couple of questions that let you tell us a little bit more about yourself if you would like to, or anything else you want to share with the reviewers. Okay, so at this point, then when you're ready to apply, you would go to the application portal, which we also will have a link in the chat for. The other thing I want to say is if you have questions about the program, then you want to talk to Ted. If you have questions, if you have any problems with the application portal, technical issues are dealing with that, then what you want to do is email me. It is also better to email me than to call for two reasons. One, it's much quicker for me to get back. I have a tendency to answer emails in the middle of the night, and I'm not going to call anyone then. But also, then if I can give you instructions on what to do physically, and you have them there as opposed to a phone call. All right, so this is an application portal like some grant portals if you've done those. So the first thing you're going to do is create your profile. And so you're going to go to the portal that looks like this, and up here at the top, you'll see create new account. So then we can move on to the next one, LT. When you come into this, you're going to tell it, are you an organization or an individual? In this case, this portion is generic to all of our applications, all of our application systems. So that's why there's organization and individual option, because once you set yourself up in this portal, if you ever applied for something else through CFTA, you would already be set up. So you're going to say that you're an individual. The only strange part of this is for some browsers, you see the password box over here that is circled. For some reason, it's only very small. The full box is there, and I've tried it on a number of different browsers, and sometimes it's fine and sometimes it's little, but you can just go ahead and type your full password that you want to use in there. And then as you can see, the confirm password box comes up correctly. So that will help you know if you've got the right thing in both places. But if yours comes up little, don't worry about it. Just type your password in. I know it's kind of a pain. We can't figure out why in some cases it's only showing up small. Okay, next slide. So once you've filled out all that, you're going to save it at the bottom, and then you'll have the option to select the actual application to begin the application. So you're going to see a screen that tells you you're accepted or you've successfully set up. And then you're going to select under grant applications and forms, the GAAP grant and start. Next. So once you're in the application, you do not have to go in order. You can jump around. There are basically 3 different sections, as I mentioned. And over here on the side, if you wanted to go down and answer the optional questions first or whatever, you can do that and jump around. Most of the questions are required. There are a couple of optional ones, but as you can see here, it will tell you whether the question you're asking is required or optional. Next. For some of the questions, we have set it up so that you have the option to either answer in text, or if you'd rather make a little video of the answer, you can do that. This is an either or. Please do not do both. Also, please pay attention to the limits that are on here. Application won't let you go over the character limit that is designated there. And please don't go over with the videos. As a reminder, the people who are going to review this are going to have a lot of applications to review. So any of these time limits or character limits are not mandatory maximums. You can certainly be briefer. It's just you can't go over these. So when you come to these questions, it will show you the 2 bullets underneath as you see here. And you can select either I want to do 1,500 characters or I want to do a 90-second video. Whichever you choose, then a second box will open up. If you choose text, then obviously it's going to be a text box. But I wanted to show you if you do the video, you're not uploading the physical video. You want to make each of your video answers as its own distinct video and then put them on something like Google Drive or Vimeo or YouTube, something where you can share the link so that the reviewers can just watch the link. You're going to paste that link in here and be sure to paste the entire link, including the HTTP portion there. Next. That's just showing you that we want, we want that full length. Next. Okay, once you've gone all the way through the questions, you can go back and edit everything before you submit. If at any point when you're you don't have to finish the application all in one sitting either. You can quit out at any point and then come back in and finish. So if you're going through it and then you decide there's something you'd like to meet with Ted and ask him about, you can absolutely do that. You can start them immediately now and then up until, as Ted mentioned, Monday the 14th at 5 p.m. If you go to submit and you have left a required field uncovered, the system will flag that for you and open it up and show you what you need to do before you can submit. As you are moving through the application, there's lots of places where you have the option to save, and I would encourage you to do that frequently. Next. So this is what will happen if you try to submit and you've left something unfinished. And so then it just has an easy option here for you to go back to that thing that needs to be finished. Next. And this is the message you'll get at the end once you've submitted everything. You will also get an email. If you don't see this screen and if you don't get an email confirmation, go back in and make sure that your application is showing as submitted. And you might also email us and say, I submitted my application, but I didn't get a confirmation email, because it may be that something strange has happened with your email. So be sure to let us know there. Once you have submitted, if you accidentally submit and then realize before the deadline, oh my goodness, I made some flaming error, you can't get back in, but if you email me, I can help you get back in. So don't panic. If you submit and then you realize, oh my goodness, I should have, said that I'm purple instead of that I'm red. All right, let me just double check. Be sure as you're going through, and this to think about the fact that what you're doing is basically telling the reviewers a story about you. You want to tell them who you are. You want to tell them about what you're interested in working on through the fellowship and what your advocacy is. Read all the questions and answer the questions. I know that is simple, but sometimes when we're doing applications and grants, we can have an idea in our head beforehand of what we want to say, and we forget to actually look at the questions and make sure we're answering them. Be as clear and as concise in your questions as possible. Make your case, make your points, but you don't need to, as I say, fill in the maximums. And I think those are all of the hot tips, other than, again, keep my email. And if you have any problems, if the system's being weird, if you can't figure out anything, please feel free to email me. Back to you, Ted.
Here I come. Trying to start working in the chat here. So thank you, Teri. That was a great run through. And as Teri shared, there's some documents, and also you'll be able to send Teri emails. That's the best way to work. So just re-emphasizing some of those key points. And I think the guide that she's created for GoSmart's a really easy to use system. And I think the document will be very useful. All right, next slide, please. Okay. And there you see Teri's link to catch in on, and these are all points that she just hit. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, I want to talk about the review and selection process. Obviously, we've fortunately had a lot of great interest in this, and if you're taking the time and labor to create an application, we really want to make sure you understand the process that we'll use for reviewing these to select a cohort. The first point I want to make is that it's essentially a two-stage application review process that we'll have. So California for the Arts will review the applications, and we'll select a short list of finalists that we'll use internally, and then we'll set up a California for the Arts review panel, and that will specifically include representatives from the Bay Area who will review those short list of finalists that we generate, and they will select a cohort of 5. And the thing I want to emphasize here is that the best metaphor we have for this is that it's like putting together a puzzle. The panel will be prioritizing, among other things, how the cohort members fit together, how they represent San Francisco and Oakland, and how, very importantly, they offer high impact potential. So just to name it, because we'll be working from a rubric, a list that helps us really look at the applications more objectively. The selection factors include a demonstrated dedication to an artistic or cultural practice. That's kind of a bottom line, but you get to express it in the means that you prefer. We're looking for proposed changes that that you have in mind in the application process that advance artist and cultural bearer well-being in many forms. We're looking for folks that have viable advocacy plans in mind. And we also are looking at the collaboration potential, folks who have existing networks, plans to build networks, and who will do well in the learning cohort. And we're also very much then are looking for experience with and openness to collaboration. We're not looking for one person bands and operations. Advocacy really does require being able to work well with others. And we're looking for a synergy of complementary approaches for the 5 people that we'd bring together. And that includes a representation of diverse perspectives. And there will be forming a community of practice where they're learning together and holding each other accountable. And we're also looking for diverse issue areas. We're not going to select 5 people all working on the same topic. And lastly, we're prioritizing both individual merit of the applicants and group dynamics. And I'll just keep mentioning the collaborative potential and complementary skills because those are so important for us. Okay, next slide, please. All right, thank you so much. So it's all about this cohort engaging as a learning community for 9 months. We'll all be working together closely. So in terms of us curating that cohort, once again, it's about varied public policy interest. We're looking for people who are curious to learn from and with each other while they're engaging in a curriculum that explores the fundamentals of advocacy, advocacy tools, cultural policy issues, governmental systems, and various advocacy approaches that are inclusive of individual artistic and cultural practices. So there's a lot there, and you don't have to know all of those things already. That's the point of having the curriculum that we'll be going through. And once again, I just really highly emphasize that the cohort selection process isn't ranking the best artists or even the hottest advocacy issues. We're trying to find the right individuals to form a cohort, and we're looking for folks who, in the application, make a strong case for how their issues impact artists and culture bearers. So we're not looking for advocacy in general or general arts advocacy, but things that really impact artists and culture bearers. We're looking for applicants who express their willingness to commit to the full program experience, and that includes attending all of the in-person sessions and virtual meetings, and those will be happening for 9 months. We are looking for people who already have some experience with advocacy or with related activities such as activism, organizing, working with a network, and we'll be looking for a blend basically of folks who may be more emerging or seasoned, but this isn't really a program that's for folks who don't have any advocacy experience yet. We're looking for folks who have demonstrated leadership and worked with a collaborative spirit. And lastly, because we're talking so much about collaboration and networking, I want to make it clear that the 5 members of the cohort don't have to coordinate on or collaborate on their individual advocacy projects. It's not like we're trying to mush them together, but we do know that coordination and collaboration will be very important for the ongoing work as folks form their more detailed advocacy plans. And we know that case making, winning the support of others, and activating networks are really important in advocacy work. So that's why we're highlighting those things. Okay, next slide, please. All right, so people will be dedicating a lot of time to this. We're putting a lot of energy into building a curriculum and making for really useful sessions. So what will folks take away from this? It's really important to note that the cohort members will walk away with knowledge and experience, that they'll have both hands-on advocacy practice and develop a detailed advocacy plan. We'll be offering multi-level policy understanding. Folks will learn how advocacy works at local, state, and federal levels, and there will be very practical knowledge that you can apply right away. We're also having folks walk away with skills and connections per se. So there'll be network development expertise, community organizing skills, and I won't discount the valuable relationships that will come out of participating in the cohort. So there'll be the ongoing support of the GAAP network, the 5 members in the first cohort. The next cohort, we'll keep networking these as we go. You'll make connections with advocacy and practitioners and professionals over the course of the 9 months. And you'll have a new relationship with the office of at least one elected official. And last but not least, you'll have recognition. There'll be a certificate of advocacy achievement from California for the Arts. So that's that piece. Let's go on to the next slide, please. And I'm also going to notice I see things pop up in the chat that we love questions that are in the Q&A box, and it's much easier to see them there. So if you don't mind, go to that box at the bottom of your screen and drop your questions into the Q&A box. So sorry. Oh, sorry. That's my takeaway slide. Sorry. Let's move forward again. Next slide, please. I want to focus on the key learning outcomes of the entire process. The curriculum is organized into 5 key areas of learning, and each one is focused on developing a specific set of skills and knowledge for effective advocacy and for leadership in public policy. And so the 5 areas are foundations of advocacy, principles of public policy, actionable advocacy planning, advocating as a leader, and art is activism. And what you see on the slide here are the 3 learning modules from the November in-person session that's coming up in just 5 or 6 weeks. So, for example, you'll see in the modules here that the 3 learning modules include art-based advocacy tools, policy goals, advocacy strategies. There's homework between the sessions. And then also you'll see here that yeah, and actually then actually what you don't quite see here are our Zoom meeting topics per se. So those are just ideas of how, once again, tying in with the goals that we have for this curriculum and program and for what people learn, is that the learning modules are very tightly planned. We'll have an interesting set of presenters, and we'll also have folks from the advocacy and policy community engage with you in the Zoom meetings. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, thank you very much. So I really want to quickly describe to you the type of learning activities. This is really integrated and active learning that we're looking for. So the learning opportunities will include 9 in-person workshops, 8 Zoom check-ins between the workshops. I want to highlight that in April, instead of the regular in-person meeting, that everyone in the cohort will participate in what California for the Arts does. On April 22nd, 23rd, 2025, we'll have a Sacramento trip. There'll be the California Arts and Culture Summit in Sacramento on April 22nd, and then Arts Advocacy Day on April 23rd, where we go in and have the Bay Area folks meet with their legislators. So the mentors will be drawn from the California for the Arts staff as well, and mentors basically help ensure that cohort members are on pace and tracking for their advocacy plan, and we're available to answer your questions or help you figure out how to answer them. There will also be peer learning. It's all about the members learning from each other. And we'll also, as I mentioned, connect you with leaders in the field. We'll actually help make introductions where we can think of them based on what the cohort members are pursuing. And lastly, there are curriculum-based activities, presentations from program instructors, guest speakers. We'll have discussions and hands-on workshops during those. There will be readings as part of the homework, and we'll talk specifically about artistic response for those culture bearers and artists who feel that that's something they want to bring to their advocacy. We'll help them with their version of exploring artistic responses, and we'll help you reflect on that in the materials and the advocacy activities people will be engaged with. Basically, as a process of identifying the change you want to affect, and that goes into the application. We'll have you over the course of the 9 months research local or state policy history and potential policy solutions related to your change issue. You'll develop an advocacy strategy plan, and we'll also have you meet with legislators along the way. Okay, next slide, please. All right, great. So really, this is available online. Please look at it in detail. You can see the schedule, which you'll find on the website. I want to point out here the timing of the cohort learning sessions, and you'll be required to attend these monthly in-person and Zoom meetings. So this is really about learning and the curriculum and being engaged and engaging with each other from next month through July of 2025. So please just start by checking your calendar before you actually even consider applying. So check this out. It's available online, and you'll see it there. Okay, I will now turn it over to you, NeFesha.
All right, you can go ahead to the next slide there, and just want to shout out, because I forgot to at the beginning, LT, our executive liaison, who is behind the scenes helping us out with these slides. So thank you so much. We're going to talk a little bit about assessment and evaluation. Good thing is we're pretty much on time, so we'll be able to get to some of your questions. I see you filling in the Q&A box. Some information around assessment and evaluation. We will have an entrance survey for assessment of learning. So when the cohort is selected, we will have that entrance survey that they will be required to complete. And then you'll be asked for your feedback for cohort meetings. So we'll be collecting feedback of participants, each experience, so that we can better plan for future sessions as we go for the 9 months that we'll be enacting this fellowship. And then we'll lean on that, again, that feedback to shape agendas and future sessions. And then we'll have exit surveys after for learning assessment after your sessions, and especially after this entire cohort, so that we can learn how to better prepare. As Ted said, we have another cohort that will be in motion by next year. And so we'll have some good feedback from the first cohort. And the cohort members' feedback will inform our program evaluation. All right, and then we have another slide here. You can go ahead to the next slide, which should be some resources. Before we get to our Q&A, and I think I saw in the chat someone asked, is this being recorded and how you'll receive it? We're going to do a follow-up email with a lot of the links and information, but we'll also share this slideshow. And these are all hyperlinks in the slideshow, so you'll be able to just directly click and it'll send you where you want to go. So here's some tools and information that you can access from different organizations that have good resources around advocacy. These are, and then we also have the website at the top of here with our bullet points, our Grassroots Artists Advocacy Program. If you're interested in signing up for office hours, you can do a meeting with Ted, or then you can do one with Ted and Teri. Ted and Teri is specifically around technical issues when it comes to GoSmart, our application portal. And if you have additional concerns, you can also email Ted. I think all of this information should be in the chat, but I'm sure that the link, because I saw the links go out for setting up office hours for Ted or Ted and Teri, and also Ted's email address. And again, these are links to a few websites that focus more generally on the field of advocacy and offer a variety of resources for those that are looking for more tools and information on the field. All right, and you can go ahead to that next slide there, and then we're going to get into some Q&A. This is additionally, I mean, things we already talked about with the links for Ted's email and the hyperlink to set up a meeting with Ted. I think that we have questions coming in the Q&A. And so we can take a moment and answer some of those questions. Just a reminder that all questions that we don't get to will be shared on in the fact sheet on our GAAP page. And be sure to set up a meeting if you have questions that were not answered today. All right, I'm going to add Ted and Teri back to our spotlight so you can see all of us. And you could probably, LT, you can probably take that screen, turn off there we go. Cool, there we go. And Teri, let me add you as a spotlight.
NeFesha, I can take this first one from Natalie Cassidy if you'd like.
For sure.
Great, great. All right, so please keep the questions coming because as NeFesha said, we'll respond to them all and be able to send those responses to everyone and post them on the website as well. This question from Natalie Cassidy is there any additional funding set aside for the advocacy work itself? If when project-related costs / expenses arise, or is the expectation that the $12,000 would be inclusive of these costs? And really the $12,000 is designed as a living wage compensation for the hours. We know that people also will have their individual travel expenses to get to the in-person meetings. People may even have childcare needs and costs, so they can apply that $12,000 stipend as they prefer, and that, of course, could go to project-related costs, but there will not be additional advocacy budget for the work. And we will also specifically cover travel expenses related to the Sacramento trip next April.
Excellent. Thank you for that answer. I saw someone's question, and I'm kind of hopping around, but Andrea asked, will in-person meetings be in Oakland for the most part? And Ted, if you want to answer that, because I know you got a pretty good
answer. Right now, we're anticipating being able to have a lot of meetings at the Kenneth Rainin Foundation, which is in Oakland on Grand near Lake Merritt. But for meetings that are not there, we are also looking for a balance of meetings in San Francisco and Oakland. So Hypothetically, they might all be in Oakland, but we would look to have a balance of locations since the cohort members will definitely come from both. We're looking for a diversity between San Francisco and Oakland.
All right, and then Ata, and please forgive me if I did not pronounce your name correctly. Stated, I'm wondering if my proposal of establishing a multicultural art community on Treasure Island would fit in GAAP.
Yes, and I don't see a mention of artists or cultural bearers there, so we could assume that it might impact them in some ways, but really that it's not designed for projects unless it's about that impact being focused there, and so you really have to make a case. And I understand why advocacy training might help you achieve that goal, but for us, it's all about how it supports individual artists. That really comes from the Kenneth Rainin Foundation, and they're individual artist focused. And as I said, there's a lot of advocacy support the California for the Arts offers. So you would have to make a case for why establishing a multicultural art community on Treasure Island would be a fit.
Cool. And a little bit of a broader question, a very important question, anonymous attendee asks, how will GAAP address possible transportation difficulties in attending in-person sessions?
I'm happy for anyone else to take that, but it's definitely that's part of what the money is for. Obviously, you can reach out to us, and we're creative people with solutions, but that is part of why $12,000 are provided. But once again, not knowing the exact type of transportation difficulties you're speaking of, we may need to interact with you to learn more about what you're anticipating.
Yeah, I think that's a good answer, and I think a lot of, even in our conversations planning this, we thought about this, and it really depends on each person's situation, how we need to support and what that would look like. So, but yes, let's see. I'm just scrolling down here. Is there, I see Hiroko asks, is there flexibility within the group to possibly change the start time to 4:30 standing work meeting commitment? I am not sure about that one. I think it depends on the cohort. Yeah.
I think what we've talked about is that once the cohort is formed, we can have a conversation with the group of 5 and then come to some consensus within that group.
Yep.
Which I realize is not a complete answer one way or the other, but scheduling is a challenge.
Yeah, we're definitely going to work with the cohort as it is developed to make sure that everybody can be there at all the sessions. And I think Ted's answering the one question about how many can you miss and still qualify. And I think it was stated earlier, it's a number of 2.
Yes.
Total.
I would also, if you have a standing conflict like that or another standing conflict, use the space. There's a question about this in your application. So it gives you all of the meeting times and then asks if you can commit to them. So that doesn't have to be a yes or no. If in the situation that was just mentioned, if you would always have, a half an hour conflict, put that in there so we have the full picture of information.
I think Nico has a good question here that I'd like to address on this. My work primarily focuses on queer and transgender artists and culture bearers. Does this need to be broader for the purpose of the program, or can we focus on a group within the group of artists and culture bearers? I can start to answer.
I'm just trying to find where is that?
In the chat.
Okay.
Yeah. And they put it in the Q&A too, but scroll down. Yeah, I would say yes. This could be, we're not necessarily looking at the broad scope, but if you want to focus in on specific groups within artists and culture bearers and doing advocacy work for or with those specific groups, then that could be a part of your proposal, and we're definitely open to that, I believe. And Ted and Teri, please share anything else if you have other thoughts on that. Cool.
Well answered.
Yeah, I agree.
Good. Storm at the bottom asks, can you go into more specifics to what an emerging art advocate looks like?
Sure. There's folks who've been out there and maybe they've been involved in a particular arts related um, piece and helped organize with people to continue funding locally or for the California Arts Council. Maybe they've done some organizing their community to request things that impact artists or work in a network that supports artists. It doesn't have to be advocacy per se, like having already, gone to meet with legislators or connecting offices or even necessarily sending letters in. But we do have a list that you'll find in the application that kind of gives prompts in terms of types of activities. And so the idea is that someone's been engaged, and whether they've called it advocacy or not, it fits within the definition of advocacy and a lot of the types of things that are named there. So hopefully that's clear. My colleagues may want to add something.
Yeah, that's clear. And I think on the website, we also have information if you have any questions about defining an artist and their art form. We have a lot of information on the website with that, as you think about this. So I think that was a great answer, Ted. Let's see. And if anyone sees a question in the chat.
NeFesha, do you want to just address this one about the recording? Because I'm not as clear on the slips into silence, or if that's past experience or something based today. What's your take on Melissa E. Jackson's question about asking about the recording?
Okay, yeah, we usually send out a follow-up email to all of the registrants, whether you were able to attend the webinar or not, and we will be sending out a follow-up email, and we'll try to get it out by end of day today, if not Monday. It is Friday, so but we do have one already drafted for you all, so you will get the recording in a follow-up email.
And if you had difficulty hearing today because it was cutting in and out, that cutting in and out should not impact the recording. That may have been your internet feed or something that was going on across the internet, because I don't think that's been across the board program. I haven't had that problem listening today. So I think the recording will be fine for you. And I apologize that you had difficulty during the recording today, or during the live today, not recording.
Let's see. One person, Eric, asked what inspired the creation of this opportunity. We briefly went over that at the beginning. This is actually like more of a brainchild, I would say, of Ted's, to see a fellowship program like this happen. And he came to CA for the Arts to make this happen. And so we've been collaborating. Ted, if you want to share any additional thoughts around that.
Sure. I mean, California for the Arts was definitely the place for this program to be born. While I was working at the Kenneth Foundation, we saw lots of development in arts advocacy, and that led to some impacts in terms of things we were able to secure it in the pandemic, in terms of including artists and arts organizations and resources. And I felt with all the advances we've had with groups like California for the Arts and local groups like ABBA Arts for a Better Bay Area, there's been a lot of great work. But it's challenging as an individual artist or as a culture bearer to be able to focus on those things. And sometimes the leaderships come from people who have the positionality of being with an institution that can help support them to take on advocacy. So I really just identified a gap in the field and did some research about what might be beneficial. And California for the Arts helped us develop this into a full training program with compensation, thanks to the grant from the Kenneth Rainin Foundation.
Absolutely. Thank you, Ted. And I'll answer this next one, and then there's two below it that I want to make sure we touch on. Hillary asks, I understand eligibility is only for San Francisco and Oakland, but is there a possibility of this kind of opportunity being open in Berkeley in the future? And I'm going to pause there and just say, yes, there is opportunity, but we have not expanded to that point yet. The goal is to expand this program across the state. But as of now, we are sticking with focusing on San Francisco and Oakland, with the hopes that we'll be able to expand in the future. And again, you have to live or work in Oakland or San Francisco. And then I see Jess's question here. Could you please elaborate on what an advocacy plan encompasses? And they said thank you too.
Sure. An advocacy plan goes through several layers, and this will actually be a piece of one of our cohort learning modules. But the idea is that you actually have a specific change goal. You do a thing that includes mapping the powerful folks and influencers who can actually help make that change happen. You also map leverage points, the people and processes that influence them. You think about people who are allied with you that you might be able to work and connect with. And you also think who might actually be opposed to this action. And you're really thoughtful in terms of developing a strategy of overcoming the opposition. You work on your communications and messaging, and you plan and organize and make it happen. So that's just a really super high level idea of it. But like any plan that's designed to meet a goal, it's really helpful to be thoughtful, strategic, and gain from people who've had experience achieving success before. And that's what the program is designed to offer, to help with the goal that folks have coming into the process, to help them come up with a detailed advocacy plan that they can go for with next summer to really achieve it.
Excellent. Let's see. Storm's question I could probably answer really quickly. And if selected to join the cohort, can you work ahead of schedule with the modules and homework? I would say we will be offering mentorship. And I think we talked about that earlier also. And I think that as you receive your modules and homework, I mean, if you're excited about the work and you want to work ahead, I would never limit that. I would just say we will be the curriculum has been developed, but it will be expanding. And like we said, it will be responsive to each session that will be informing the next. So there will be some things that will be just hard to work ahead on, because we'll be, every time we come together, we're going to give more information. But then there will be some things that you'll know about ahead of time. Even like your advocacy plan, when we give that sample plan, you'll be able to start drafting yours, and you might get ahead with that work. But I would say anytime you're just jumping ahead, just make sure that you're connecting with your mentor to make sure you're going the right path and the right track, so that you don't waste a lot of time. Does anyone else want to answer that as well?
I thought that was pretty on track.
Okay.
Hmm.
Good. I know that we are reaching 1 o'clock. We have 1 minute. And we're trying to answer some of the questions in the chat. We will stay on for anyone that has not gotten an answer. We'll probably take another couple minutes just to make sure that we answer some more of the questions if needed. But at 1 o'clock, you all are welcome to pop off if needed.
Yeah, we're so close. Hiroko, if you're able to stay on, we can answer your questions live here in the room.
I think we touched on the transportation question, but just making sure that everyone knows, if you're selected as a cohort member, we will work with you to make sure that you can get to, I mean, within a reasonable limit, to make sure that each person can attend the sessions.
Yeah, I just want to thank everyone for their time and interest in this. And when we send the deck out, you'll be able to look at it, and also click on the links that are in it in the resource page at the end. And we just really appreciate all the folks who are working together to advance artists and culture bearers, but also more broadly in advocacy, working with California for the Arts. That's why I'm so excited to be working with the team now.
Absolutely. Teri, were you going to say something? Do you have anything else to share?
I was just going to say, if you have challenges, concerns about getting to the meeting, about the timing and those kinds of things, I would encourage you to share those in the application. Yes. So we can start to work on those solutions. Also, this is a first-time program and therefore a first-time application. So if you run into issues, I would love to hear about it, not only if you need help getting over them, but because that helps us improve for the future. There's, if there's big problems, we can obviously fix them right now. But I always like to hear how it's going. So keep my email and let us know, because you're helping your fellow applicants by sharing problems with us.
And Maya Mel Lisa, thank you so much for the clue on pronouncing your name. Always appreciate that. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Haruka, that's a good question about getting a t-shirt for applying. We'll have to see about that. These are some cool shirts. Thank you everyone for joining us. Like I said, we'll stay on for a minute, but if you have to have one, again, thank you for joining us. And Ted, do you want to take any of these questions here?
Yeah, let's just go through them. And nice to see some offers of resources and spaces from people. So thank you so much for that. And what I see here is there a total number of estimated hours for the entire program, including homework, surveys, travel to Sacramento, etc. And we're just looking at it as an average of 25 hours per month. And some people may consider their advocacy action they're doing something more than homework. Some people may spend more time. There will be months, of course, where you spend less. So we haven't really charted that out in a way that says this much for homework, this much for surveys, this much, etc. We really wanted to give an estimate approximately, and actually know that it's more likely that people might have less than that for many months. So we just wanted to make sure that we were offering a living wage, but people will take a different approach to how long it takes them to do their homework and what they want to include as part of this process. And people might have different ways of what they think about as the work that they're doing. Anyone else have thoughts about that? We've discussed it a lot as a team here.
Yeah. No, I don't have anything. I think that was good.
I agree.
And then this question, I think, is there additional funding somewhere to leverage a statewide campaign in the future? Or shall we start gathering signatures for a bond measure now too? Well, from my experience, and Ted and Teri, I think that you'll have more to share and to offer to answer this question. But from my experience, as you start the advocacy work and you're working toward your goals and your initiative, there could be opportunity, to grow funding and to get additional funding. But yeah, do you either of you have another answer that you'd like to share?
Any funders that you'd like to say this is a fabulous program and I wish it was more widely? We don't. It never hurts to put in a good word out there.
Exactly.
Yeah, and we're always interested in funding for any type of statewide campaign and work. So that's part of why the networking and learning is so important for us to all be creative. And we know some of the usual suspects in terms of funders and sources, but we actually know that we need to broaden that circle and have more people see the potential. And yeah, we know that there's certain expenses involved in local initiatives, bond measures, anything along those lines. So it's an important part of advocacy is you got to fund the revolution.
Oh, absolutely.
Somebody just asked in the chat if they live in the South Bay yet work in Oakland, do you qualify to apply? Yes, you only have to. You can either live or work in Oakland or San Francisco. So if you work in Oakland, you're good to apply.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, I think
Looks like
we
did it.
Yeah,
I think we've done it.
All of our questions. Oh, someone.
Looks like a comment more than a question. Yes.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Thank you for that. All right, and let's answer real quick Marlene's question, because we did meet with access, and I feel like that goes in alignment. Has there been or access to previous artists with disabilities advocacy work, such as brain injury survivors, arts advocacy?
Is that more specifically, has California for the Arts done that?
Yeah, that's it.
Or does that exist somewhere? I'm just trying to interpret the question so we can answer it.
Well, one thing I would say is that if you're interested in it and that's part of your advocacy work, you can also propose that as something you want to,
the follow-up says yes via this program. So this is a brand new program. This
Oh.
will be the first cohort. So no, this program specifically has not worked on that specific issue. If that was the question based on the follow-up.
Right.
Right, but in related
Whatever this
areas, oh, go ahead, Teri.
Yeah, whatever this cohort works on will be the inaugural program. We've had other advocacy training programs through Californians for the Arts, but this will be the first round of this specific one.
Yeah,
Thank you, she said.
NeFesha, you mentioned how we connected with Access Dance, talked about disability elements, also had a great meeting with Emily Smith Batix, who's over at San Francisco State, where they're creating a disability cultural center, and they also have a program that focuses on academic. They have an academic fellowship for academics with disabilities, and we've learned a lot from them about how to support communities. And so those conversations included folks with brain injuries and other types of disabilities. So there's a lot there and a lot that we're checking in on.
Yeah, and Marlene asked about I think it's an important question about early access for homework for individuals, folks with disabilities. And I think we're taking, if we end up with a cohort that someone needs that access, that's something that we are taking, we'll take very seriously and make sure that everyone has the accommodations needed to be successful. Like, that is the most important thing. So, whatever that looks like, we'll make sure that we work with each person.
Yeah, but inclusivity is really important for us. So in terms of people with disabilities, neurodivergence, et cetera, it's something that we're committed to working with. There are times, as I'm learning from experts who really work entirely with communities with people with disabilities, that sometimes those access needs can even conflict, and you just have to work that out as a group in terms of what people's needs are. And we are very much for it. And oh yeah, love working with the Gravity Access Services for a long time as a funder, helped fund Just Cause Gravity to help create their program. So we are all in, and love these suggestions. Please keep sending emails to us as you think of things.
Absolutely. I think we've gotten through all of the questions that I see.
I think we have everything in the chat and the Q&A, and I think it's time to let people go to work.
Excellent, excellent.
Or better yet, go to play. Like, it's good to go.
I know. Hey, well, everyone here, I hope you all have an amazing weekend.
Thanks,
Thank you
everyone.
all.
You all.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Take care.